Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Thursday evening/night. I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to all of you, depending on the timeline, wherever it is that you're joining us from across the globe. I wish to extend my sincere apologies for having missed the morning broadcast. That was that wasn't out of willingness, but out of circumstances beyond my own control. Power was off. Yes, nobody struck our dams in Uganda like President Trump had promised to strike the power generating plants in Iran, but power was off, and our incompetent UEDCL decided to give me mixed communications. On one hand, they denied a planned shutdown when I asked about the timelines for when power would be restored. And on another, they were saying it is a planned shutdown. So I had two communications on two different platforms from the same entity communicating something different. So there's nothing I can, say to that in regards to that context. Other than them being competent. But it is what it is. It is very unfortunate. It does cost us a great deal in our work, but that's why we keep working hard and hope that in the future we can have alternative means to come to you live when such circumstances do arise. So, yeah. Anyways, in tonight's discussion, we'll be talking about Barcelona, who have lodged an appeal to UEFA, complaining or expressing their dissatisfaction and seeking explanation and justification for some of the misdeeds that they found wanting in the officiation of their 2-0 loss to Atletico de Madrid last night in the UEFA Champions League. We'll be talking about that loss as well. In the context of Barcelona, we'll be talking about Liverpool's loss away to Parc des Princes, where they lost to PSG by 2-0. And we'll be bringing you the updates from the UEFA Europa League, where Aston Villa went into halftime with a 1-0 lead against Bologna. That goal scored by Enzri Konsa from a set piece. And then FC Porto against Nottingham Forest. That game is 1-1, while Freiburg are having a 2-0 lead against Celta Vigo. In the UEFA Conference League, action is also ongoing, and Crystal Palace have a 2-0 lead against Fiorentina, with Jean-Philippe Mateta among the goal scorers, as well as Tariq Mitchell in that one. Unfortunately, I've not been watching that game, but due to limited resources in terms of my screen. So, but I'll see what I can do about it. It's a game that I would have loved to, keep my eyes on as things go on. So I'm trying to find a way to make it happen. I wanted to use my other device for something totally different. But also, I wish to say thank you so much to all of you that have watched our video. Earlier on, we did put out a video explaining the conundrum or the situation regarding Mukal Mudrik's situation at Chelsea amidst an ongoing investigation or case brought with the charges brought against him for violating the anti-doping rules. And it is believed that meldonium, a banned substance, was found in his urine sample back in December in the aftermath of the November International Break 2024. So in that video, we tell you what's happened, how did we arrive to the sort of situation we are in with Mukalo Mudrik. We talk about what the updates are, how far the investigations have gone, how far the case is going, when should we expect a decision, and things like that. So for those of you that are just joining us, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is my name. I come to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's 7 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. Do let me know where you're joining us from. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel since it is your first time here, and help support our growth on this channel. It is a football channel. It is a sports channel. We get to talk about the latest from the world of football. So I wish to say thank you to Mariam from Egypt. I saw she's among the first people that watched our video when we put that video out regarding Mokalo Modric. So thank you so much, Mariam, and all the others that have just your way into watching it. In case you haven't watched it already, please go over to the channel under the video section and take a glimpse at it. And do not forget to leave me a comment down in the comment section in regards to what your feelings, what your impressions are about regarding the Mokalo Modric situation. It's a very, very painful situation. And as I allude as I argue in that video, it's quite unfortunate for Mokalo Modric, given that he is been out of action for close on to a year and a half. And it's never really good for any player to spend that time out without knowing what their fate is in the context or in the wake of the investigation that is ongoing to his name. So yeah, that's the situation as things go. Okay, now let's start with Barcelona. Okay, let's start with Barcelona. Dan Loveridge, is that how it is pronounced? Hi Dan, how are you doing, guys? Please, please be kind. In case you have a token of thank you for me, you can drop it under the super chat support. You can buy me a cup of coffee, even if it is as low as $0.5. I'll take it. Anyways, hi Mariam, do you remember me? Obviously, I do remember you. I was just giving you your flowers. I was just thanking you for having watched our video that we did put out earlier regarding Mokalo Modric's situation. I saw you comment to that, even though you had thought that was a live broadcast, but it wasn't. So thank you so much, Mariam, for always sparing the time to be part of our engagements. Hi Pedri, how are you doing? Tonight, oh, Pedri says, how is Aldrin in Soboga? Aldrin in Soboga is doing all right. I've not spoken to him in a bit. I've tried reaching out to him, but his phone went unanswered, but he is all right. At least I get to follow the updates that he does share online in the different forum. But, I mean, where do you get the interest in Aldrin? Okay. Mariam, I'm trying to figure out what comment you've typed there. It does not ring a bell. Oh, the greeting. Is that the greeting in the Egyptian greeting version? Okay, I hope so. Anyway, so Pedri, let's start with Barcelona. Now, Barcelona yesterday lost to Atletico de Madrid by 2-0. A brilliant free kick from Julian Alvarez gave Atletico de Madrid the lead prior to halftime. And then we had Alexander Soroth score in the second half to give Atletico de Madrid the second goal in that game. A game in which Barcelona had to finish it with a manless following the sending off of Pau Kubasi in the game. Now, whereas that in itself was unfortunate, I do not think Pedri would contest the matter to the extent that it was a deserved red card in the context of the judgment of the game. Now, in the aftermath of that very defeat, Barcelona have lodged an appeal of their own to UEFA to question the level or quality of officiating that did transpire in that game yesterday. So I understand they have reservations in regards to how their game was handled, and particularly it talks about a particular incident in which Barcelona thought they should have had a penalty. Pedro is asking, how is Dakaba Chigongo? Dakaba Chigongo is doing all right. He is the head of sport at Nation Media Group, one of the largest private, actually the largest private media entity in the country that works also in Kenya. I think the referee was horrible, very bad. I am ashamed of such disgusting human being. Mariam is asking, what do you think of Anna Slot not starting Salah versus PSG? We will get to that, Mariam. But thank you so much for your comment. Let's start with the case regarding Barcelona, because I find that very interesting. Now, I think it was around the 54th minute, In attempting to have a restart of play, Mosso did Mosso appears to start the ball, passes it to his own defender. I don't remember who exactly, whether it was Robin Lee Nomad, and then he handles the ball in what he considers to the ball being given to him to start the ball. Now, yes, he understands me. YouTube translates to him, Pedri. Okay. All right. So now what happened was it's not the first time, unfortunately, something like this is happening. We have had a similar incident in the UEFA Champions League, and this was back in 2023-2024 campaign when Arsenal were playing against Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals, for which the referee described as a silly mistake or a childish mistake, and therefore did not award the penalty. Even at that occasion, Thomas Tuchel was in charge of Bayern Munich at the time. He did protest or question the judgment of the referee in that particular incident. Then fast forward, I think this was in the UEFA Europa League against Club Brugge. And I stand to be corrected, but Aston Villa were awarded a penalty for a similar incident. Now, if you've observed in sort of modern day football, it is very common for a goalkeeper to give the ball to the defender, for the defender to start play between him and the goalkeeper. Usually, I'll give you an example. So at the start of play, you'll have the goalkeeper in the center of goal or around that zone. You'll have one of the defenders to the left of the 16 yards of the 6 yards box, and the other defender to the right, around the edge or slightly beyond of the 6 yards box. So the ball is handed to the one of the defenders to start it. Normally, that defender in question will pass it to the goalkeeper, and then the goalkeeper oftentimes will look to the opposite direction depending on how the opposing team reacts to that start of the game. So I have seen it on more than one occasion where the goalkeeper puts that ball to the floor, and then in trying to hand it over, or in his perceived handing it over to the other defender, they pass it with their feet instead of rolling it down with their arms, because that's very different, especially when it was not a direct catch from the goalkeeper, because then that also would be different. So in that case, if you, the goalkeeper, places the ball on the turf and pass it to your defender, the game is considered to be in play. In other words, you have restarted the game. So for a defender to bend down and put their hands on that ball, that is going to cost you. That is why I said in the incident of Arsenal versus Bayern Munich, the referee described it as a childish mistake. The key word there being mistake. Now, referees are given the discretion to pass judgment on the officiation of the game. It is up to them to decide. They can apply the rules to the letter of the law. They can also weigh their options and apply their common sense. One of the biggest rules within the officiating of the game is the common sense element. And with common sense, there's an expectation that the referee will use his judgment or discernment of the situation, understanding of the game, to make a certain decision. Now, what makes this very contentious? One, it is against the rules. Two, we have seen an incident where a penalty has been awarded. So Barcelona are valid, in their opinion, to raise this concern. Nonetheless, I do not think I would also crucify the referee for having not given the penalty. Now, Barcelona are questioning why VAR did not intervene, because in a way, it does appear to be a clear and obvious error by the referee not to award the penalty. But like I said, the cardinal rule, maybe not the most important, but a very, very important rule, is the referee's common sense. He decides that I'm not going to award the penalty for that particular incident. So Barcelona were aggrieved by that. On the other side, also, I must acknowledge that maybe my personal opinion is a bit prejudiced by the interpretation or explanation we got from the incident involving Arsenal and Bayern Munich. However, even though you want to orient yourself in that manner or with such analogy, keep this in mind that that in itself is described as a precedent. So, if it is set as precedent, even though it is against the rules, the context is very, very key. The context is very, very key. So, if the referee thinks it's a childish mistake, and that is not to say that it then nullifies the rule, no, it simply speaks to the discernment of the referee. It speaks to the referee's use of common sense in that moment to take decision as such. Then, on the other side, had the referee be given that as a penalty, again, I don't think it would have been disputed. Why? Because he would have applied the rules to the letter of the law. It's simply that, So I think it's very, very important that we understand it in that perspective. But overall, I thought we had a very, very good game. And initially, Pau Kubasi was given a yellow card. It went to the to VAR to award a red card because he was summoned to VAR. Because first of all, for me, because he is the last man or the last line of defense in Pau Kubasi, I think it becomes very, very questionable. It becomes very, very questionable. I'm back. Do you remember me? That is Stefan Morris. Yes, I do remember you. Hi, Stefan Morris. Good to have you back on the channel. So, in my humble opinion, is that first of all, I think the referee made a mistake in this particular case because the moment you qualify that as an offense, it's a straight red card. Why? He's the last man. He does deny a goal scoring opportunity. Hello, Sanjay. Good to have you back on the broadcast. I do remember you. Thank you for being back with us tonight. Hope you're doing all right. So, the referee ought to have done better in that moment, right from the onset. That foul was against Giuliano Simeone, I think. He was the player brought down in the particular incident by Pau Kubasi. I had wanted to have a more magnified look at the particular incident. But the mere fact that the referee, right from the onset, he thinks that there is a foul worth of a free kick and a yellow card, he should have been quick to alive himself to the situation that this was the last man and it was the last line of defense. Therefore, in bringing an opponent down, you deny a clear, you judge to have denied a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity. Therefore, you get sent off. And I do not think we have any qualms whatsoever about that. So I think that was the right decision. And such moments are what validate the existence of VAR. However, the inconsistent application of the system sometimes brings question to the overall application of the system. Why? Because we have seen cases where we lack the consistency in terms of decision making or in terms of VAR being called into action to help interpret situations or to help referees have another look at things. Meanwhile, Aston Villa 2-0 up against Bologna. Things are going really, really fast. The second goal scored by Oli Watkins. That goal came through in the 51st minute. So that action is ongoing as we speak. So that action is ongoing as we speak. So you're not missing out much. That is what is happening in the UEFA Europa League on that side. So Anyways, moving on, or moving back, or drifting back to the Barcelona game. So overall, it was a very, very good. It was a very, very good game of football. One that you did enjoy if you are a neutral, you know. So Julian Alvarez stepped up to the resultant free kick and he converted it very quite decently, and it was 1-0 to the visitors. Now, for an Atletico de Madrid side who had not won a game of football at Camp Nou since 2006, my hopes going into that game were never high. In fact, for those of you that can't remember the build-up for that particular game, my prediction had been a 3-1 victory for Barcelona. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the aisle you stand in this one, Diego Simeone came up with quite the master plan to stop Barcelona. I saw them bundle up Lamine Yamal to deny him any form of momentum that he would have had on the ball. When you look at the free kick, it's exquisitely taken, quite beautiful. You cannot really blame Joan Garcia for not getting there. Top corner, top bins. The Argentine international was simply sublime with that free kick. So, I mean, maybe if I don't know, maybe if Joan Garcia had the height of some of the goalkeepers, the likes of Thibaut Courtois, maybe gets his fingertips to it. If he was a couple of inches taller, sorry. But that's not the case. But it was nonetheless a very, very beautiful free kick. And it was a joy to watch. I don't know why Diego Simeone did not celebrate that one, but it was a very, very beautiful, goal. Then Marcus Rashford had some moments. In the first half, he forced John Mosso into a save to his near post. Then early in the second half, he missed an opportunity when he rounded up, I think, the goalkeeper, but he could not find the target. Then he had a free kick, stunning, typical shot from Marcus Rashford. Mosso gets his fingers to it, and it hits the crossbar on its way out. So Barcelona had their chances really in this game. They tried to push for it, but they were just not critical enough. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest have scored, and it is 2-1 for Nottingham Forest in that game against FC Porto in the quarterfinals of the UEFA Europa League. I'm trying to see if I can have a glimpse of that goal. But it is 2-1 in favor of the visitors. Vita Pereira looks to be getting the edge over Francesco Farioli, formerly at Ajax, now at FC Porto, one of those managers or head coaches that Raymond Kangumba, a Newcastle fan, keeps talking about as one that he thinks would be a suitable candidate to go and lead the affairs at Newcastle should they choose to part ways with Ed Howe. At the right opportune time, we will talk about Ed Howe in the coming weeks. Then Davis says, is Messi the greatest ever? That's a subjective opinion because different people will tell you different views. Some believe it was Pele, others believe it was Diego Armando Maradona, others may have somebody different. So, but I'll leave that at that. Anyways, so when you look at Barcelona and the stats they had in the game, it tells you everything you need to know. Atletico de Madrid had only 3 shots on target. They scored with 2. They had an XG of 0.45 compared to Barcelona's 1.2, who had 7 shots on target and 7 off target with 4 blocked shots. They were dominant in possession to the tune of 58%. And that was bearing in mind that they had a man less on the day. Had that not been the case, I do suspect that the result would have been perhaps much different at the end of it all. But nonetheless, it is what it is. But it is that decision or that particular incident from the game that has caused Barcelona to lodge to lodge an appeal with UEFA about the conduct of the referee, for which they think they should have had a penalty in that game at least, but it was not the case. So, regardless of what the verdict will be for UEFA, the result will not change. A two-goal lead for Atletico de Madrid, one that is very, very invaluable. I do not think even Atletico Madrid had envisioned that kind of result coming into this particular fixture, given their own fever of playing away to Camp Nou. Then, is the tie over? It is far from over. It is far from over. It is far from over. Really. It is far from it. Because we have seen comebacks. We saw Barcelona back in 2017. You remember, against PSG, they completed a comeback despite losing the first leg by 4-0. We saw that. And therefore, I can't. Then we saw the same Barcelona against Atletico de Madrid in the Copa del Rey final, whereas they were unable to complete that. After losing 4-0 in the first leg, they won the reverse fixture by 3-0. Now, even though that was an incomplete comeback, I use it as a point of reference to just suggest that Barcelona are capable of winning a game of football by 3-0. And therefore, I'm not sure. I don't think Atletico de Madrid, and particularly Diego Simeone, will delude himself into thinking, no matter how good they can be on a given day defensively, that tie is done. It is far from it. We will get to the homework of Barcelona and what needs to be done, or what they ought to do when the right time comes. When that time comes, later on next week, we will get to discuss what their work should be going into the reverse fixture. But I thought we should start with the Barcelona news in regards, or in the work of the appeal. Okay. Let me see. I need to find Mariam's comments earlier on, and we have it digested. Okay. Mariam says, ask, what do you think about Ancelotti's bad head and not starting Salah against PSG? I do not think starting Mohamed Salah would have been of significant difference for how Liverpool behaved in the entirety of the game. Whereas Mohamed Salah can be a difference maker on any given day, whereas he can be a difference maker on any given day, I do not think yesterday was the kind of day following when you assess Liverpool's overall performance to suggest that they would have had it better. First of all, he had a very wanting performance in their 4-0 defeat against Manchester City in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup over the weekend, and perhaps that was a part of the justification for Ancelotti to drop him in wanting to start with what appeared to be a back five, like literally, because he went with wing backs or passe, or decided to start with to play with wing backs, a back three of Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahim Konate, Milos Kakes, and Jeremy Frimpong. Then that a conservative midfield trio of Alexis McAllister, Ryan Gravenberch, and Dominic Szoboszlai, then Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz. Now, first of all, apart from Georgi Mamadashvili, I do not think there is a Liverpool player that I would credit for having had a good performance on the day, not in my humble opinion. So, Mohamed Salah has a combined goal contribution of goals and assists thus far this season of about 19 goals. Over the weekend, he had missed a penalty against Manchester City. He had missed a couple of chances. And as the case has been for the Egyptian throughout the entire course of the season, he's not looked sharp. The game has oftentimes looked beyond him. Whereas his pedigree and stature does suggest that he can be a difference maker in the game. This season, you struggle to remember how many games he has been the difference maker. He had a very good performance against Galatasaray in the reverse fixture. That was at Anfield. good game. He did score in that one. He provided an assist and a pre-assist, or at least participated in the contribution to, was it Gravenberch's goal? Yes, because I think it was his attempt on goal that was parried by the goalkeeper in the direction of Gravenberch before he scored. So he is a very good player, one that can help Liverpool offensively. But based on his performance throughout the course of this season, you cannot really jump to a conclusion that his absentia in the starting 11 is what cost Liverpool. First of all, I must acknowledge, I did love how PSG applied themselves. They played in this manner of a revolving door. They behave like a revolving door of how those players switch positions, of how those players occupy spaces. I'll give you an example. In one moment, you're seeing Kivica Kvaratskhelia receiving the ball on the right wing and driving it diagonally and ending up in the left wing. On another occasion, he's in the left wing. Ousmane Dembele has stuck in the middle. He's gone to the wing. And you have Desli Doué to the left, yet he started with the right. I mean, you have Vitinha drifting into the centre-back role and Willian Pacho pushing forward. You have a long ball being received by Nuno Mendes, and yet it's, I mean, that lack, you almost feel like there's a lack of permanent positioning of any of those players, especially the front three, because they are all fluid players. None of them is a striker. None of them stays there. So they're always moving around and they constantly are interchanging positions. I remember having a similar suggestion for Arsenal to try and tweak things up when they eventually beat up against Everton by 2-0. When they had Bukayo Saka, Noni Madueke on the pitch, and Eberechi Eze. At one point, I wanted Noni Madueke to move to the right wing, Saka to move centrally behind the striker, who I think had been, was it Kai Havertz at the time? And then Eberechi Eze to the left. But they could not do it. And I do not know whether it was a static command by the manager not to switch it up. But as players, you must have the judgment, the discernment, and the situational analysis to say, this is not working, we need to tweak it a bit, we need to do it this way. But for PSG, that's how they routinely play, that they are constantly changing positions. When you look at that second goal, it is Joao Neves that plays that line-breaking pass for Kivica Kvaratskhelia, who dribbles past a couple of Liverpool defenders, including the goalkeeper himself, before he slots the ball into the back of the net. Whereas Mo Salah is a very, very good player. I cannot draw to the conclusion that his exclusion from the starting 11 is what cost Liverpool all the game. Yesterday, Liverpool were just poor. 0 shots on target. Hugo Ekitike looked the worst he has ever been in Liverpool colours. I don't think I've seen a bad performance from him. Ousmane Dembele was unlucky or just not clinical enough. He could have easily scored a hat-trick in that game. And therefore, that's why I came to the conclusion that the final result of 2-0 is a bit flattering to Liverpool. It makes you think that Liverpool could put up quite a fight, but it was far from it. PSG were dominant on the ball to the tune of 70% in terms of ball possession. They had an XG of 2.2 compared to Liverpool's 0.18. I think that's the worst Liverpool have had in a game of football this season. PSG had 6 shots on target. Liverpool had none. They had only 1 shot off target, Liverpool. That tells you how they found it difficult to penetrate PSG, who had 6 shots off target and about, I think, 6 blocked shots. So there came a moment, and they, in a way, how they applied themselves, and particularly in the second half, they behaved like Arsenal when Arsenal were playing against Man City in the Carabao Cup final. Oftentimes, Arsenal defended so deep that they did not have a player committed to challenge the centre-back. So every time Liverpool cleared that ball, it simply came back to Marquinhos and Willian Pacho. And PSG were simply on the receiving end of whatever clearance Liverpool were doing, and quickly dispossessed them. The amount of pressure they applied on Liverpool to send them into panic mode every time Liverpool had the ball is something really, really amazing to watch. In fact, PSG reminded you of Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp with the gegen pressing. They were relentless. They were relentless in their runs. Vitinha, Joao Neves, Warren Zaire-Emery, very, very beautiful performance. So thank you so much, Mariam, for that comment. Okay, I think we discussed Pedro's comments about the referee being very, very terrible. Okay. Mariam said, yes, he understands me. YouTube translates to him. Pedri, okay, thanks. Pedri, you forgot to translate. Okay. Stefan said he's back. Okay, let's I think skip to the most recent comments. Stefan says Andrea Pirlo or Paul scores. Andrea Pirlo on any given day, in my humble opinion. Galatasaray only has Victor Osimhen. Not really. They have Gabriel Sala, very, very good Brazilian. They have Noah Lang, very good player. Lucas Torreira in that midfield, he's been quite good. They have some decent players, really. So that's for you, Mariam. Okay, I don't want to skip any comments. Do you memorize the matches? No. Okay, I do memorize some moments of the matches because I watch some of these matches, but also when I'm watching football, oftentimes I take notes. When I'm watching a game of football. For example, I'll note who missed the chance. Like Ousmane Dembele hit the upright. He had early on in the second half where he had the cutback for him in the area and he parried that over the bar. Then on another turn, he forced Georgi Madashvili in a brilliant save. In the first half, you had an attempt by Kivicha Kvaratskhelia that took a slight deflection off the bat of McAllister, but Mamadashvili saved that one. Then you had a moment in which, again, it was Desiree Doué who forced Mamadashvili into a save. When you look at the goal itself, it took a deflection off Ryan Gravenberch's foot. So sometimes I take note of the key moments of the game. So I do not write everything, but I take some notes, especially if I'm watching the game from home. So, but yeah, I that's how I keep track for some of the facts. Thank you so much, Stefan, for that question. Okay. Salah won't make a change. She should at least be a starter. Now, man, you're reading the comment. You're reading the comment. I fell asleep and woke up to find you actually read the comment. No, guys, you have to be a bit patient with me when you submit a comment, because if I read somebody's comment and I'm responding to it and I have an explanation to give, I can't stop midway then to read the subsequent comment, because then it will interrupt me in driving the other point home. So you have to be a bit patient with me on that one. Okay. You say at least he should be a starter. Well, he is a starter, Mohamed Salah. He is a starter for Liverpool, but we must acknowledge that if a player is not really looking good, yeah, we must be humble enough to acknowledge that he needs to maybe go down the pecking order. I made the same argument for Noni Madueke to start ahead of Bukayo Saka. When I've seen Bukayo Saka look off of it, he's been off of it literally the entire season. We made the similar arguments for Eberechi Eze to start ahead of Martin Odegaard, even though they are different players. I mean, we made those arguments, across board. I remember making a similar argument, I think, for Amadou Diallo to start on the bench because he was being off of it at Manchester United. So it's only fair. Okay. Okay. I think, okay. Please read the comments quickly. I fall asleep between them. It seems the comments are taking slow tax. Where do people expect Salah to go after Liverpool, do you expect him to join a club other than Saudi Arabian clubs? For Mohamed Salah, I, for one, would still have him around the Premier League. Why? Because I still believe he has a contribution to make. First of all, I think he's such a good player that a team I envision some of these mid-table teams. And when I talk about mid-table teams, I'm talking about teams like Everton, teams like Aston Villa, teams like Newcastle, teams like Tottenham Hotspurs. They can't really still use his services, because whereas he's not had the kind of season that he would have dreamt of as the send-off season at Liverpool, I still think he can still come good on a given day, especially for those teams where the expectations are a bit lesser, where he's going to be the star of the team. Because I said this when Liverpool signed Florian Wirtz for £100 million plus, when they signed Alexander Isak, when they signed Hugo Ekitike, that there was going to be a competition for the crown of who is Liverpool's kingsmaker. And of course, Mo Salah would not have loved to be dethroned, but he must have realized that the tables or the tectonic plates on which he was walking along at that Anfield turf were beginning to shift, So there's going to be that bit of competition for the eye of who leads, Liverpool. So, but I would appreciate him to, I would really love him to stay within the Premier League. Nonetheless, if I have this to say, if it is about the money and he wants to make a bit more money as he ages closer to his retirement, Saudi Pro League clubs are the best destination. I think he will get good money there. Given that he's going to leave Liverpool as a free agent, he will get good money. However, he still has the legs to play in Europe. He can go to the Italian Serie A. We know they love, players above their 30s. AC Milan, Inter Milan, Juventus, and Napoli, all those would be good options for him. Clubs in the Major League Soccer, if he does envision himself playing in the Major League Soccer, he can still go there. I do not think Spanish La Liga would be a good destination for him at this moment. Then when you look around France, there could be options for him, teams like Lyon, teams like Olympique Marseille, teams like Lille. I do not know if he would consider those options, but most likely, I would predict that it's either going to be the Premier League stay, a Saudi Pro League stay, going to the Saudi Pro League or the Italian Serie A. However, with the Premier League, the reservation I have about that is I do not know the terms and conditions or the gentleman's agreement he may have had with Liverpool over the terms of his departure, because we know he still has a year left to his contract with Liverpool, but they have chosen to forfeit that and let him live on a free transfer as opposed to making some money out of him, because in the next 1 year, they were supposed to pay him around £25 million. So instead of paying him that, they are thinking to themselves, going to sell him for what? About £20 million. Let's show a sign of appreciation to him and let him, live as a free agent. So maybe in that gentleman's agreement, the agreement is that he does not join a Premier League rival. It could be that. I'm not saying it is the case, but it could be that. Okay. What do you think about following the Egyptian league? I mean, he could return home. He's not quote unquote still desperate to make more large sums of money. I think he's now self-sufficient financially, that a return home is a very, very plausible option. Now that you even mention it, we've seen players like Mohamed Trezeguet return home, and play good football. We've seen Hakim Ziyech return to Morocco, and play home. So it is an option for him, First of all, he would get a very, very huge sign-on fees. First of all, he comes with the Salah brand. And I think, by the way, the Premier League may lose a good section of the Egyptian market, especially because there are a lot of Egyptians who have been watching the Premier League because of Mohamed Salah. There's a good community of that, so they're going to lose a bit of that. Okay, dude, you watch more matches than I study lectures. How about you come and study my anatomy lecture instead of me? I don't think I would excel in your anatomy class. I don't think I would excel in your anatomy class. But um, guys, okay, you see how serious you take your classwork? That's how serious I take football in a way, just for purposes of comparison. I know the two are not in the same, bracket, but it's just, it is what it is. Meanwhile, full time, sorry, sorry. We are edging closer and closer to the finishing line over some of those games in the UEFA Europa League. Bologna have pulled one back against Aston Villa, and it is 2-1 now. I think it is a very, very valuable goal, but over two legs, I do fancy Aston Villa to go through. Given the experience of Unai Emery in this competition, he guided Sevilla to 3 consecutive UEFA Europa League titles in 2014, 15, and 16, I think. So I take them as favorites to sort of to go ahead and win this one. So then he also guided Villarreal to the triumph of the same competition back in 2021. They beat Manchester United in the finals on post-match penalties. With Sevilla, I think it was 14, 15, and 16, because in the 2015, was it the 2015 final? No, 2016 final. They beat Liverpool. For the 2015 final. So yeah. Now, just to digress a bit back, Kivicha Kvaratskhelia. I mean, he has an 18. What's your name, bro? My name is Robert K. Sarkos. Now, Kivicha Kvaratskhelia yesterday scored, and that was his 18th goal contribution in the UEFA Champions League ever since he joined a PSG from Napoli in January 2025. And with that, he scored this season alone, he scored 8 goals and has provided 5 assists. So that gives him a 13-goal contribution. Then last season, he had a 5-goal contribution. And remember, they went all the way to the final and won it all. So really, okay, you say I am a girl, for your information, not a man. I understand, Mariam, because Mariam, even in Uganda, that's a name given to ladies. So I wouldn't delude myself into thinking you're a man. But if in the slip of a tongue I may have alluded to you as a male, please accept my sincere apologies. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to add as a statement of fact on Kivicha Kvaratskhelia. Then, like I said, Unai Emery, that's, for me, I do fancy him to guide Aston Villa to the triumph over this season's UEFA Champions League. And I think it will be a very, very invaluable piece of silverware because he joined them, I think, in late 2021 when he left Villarreal, when things were not working out for Steven Gerrard, and he's made them quite a competitive force. Like I said, he's won it 4 times, 3 consecutive times with Sevilla, 14, 15, and 16. So in 2016, they beat Liverpool. When Jurgen Klopp had just come, he had arrived around October 2015. Then in 2015, they beat up against Dnipro, Then in 2014, they beat Benfica. That was on post-match penalties. So yeah. Now, okay, quickly. Let's see the updates. So Aston Villa have scored the third. So they've restored their 2-goal cushion. I mean, I don't think there will be a way back for Bologna. Bologna to get to this stage. Meanwhile, they knocked out Italian Serie A side. That was Italian Serie A side. That was AC Roma. Aston Villa knocked out. Was it Lyon? So yeah. So Oli Watkins is a goal scorer for the third. Okay, is it Uganda, Mary, or Mariam? Now, Mariam is an Islamic name in Uganda, to the best of my knowledge. Mary is the Christian version of it. So if you're called Mary, chances are you're Christian. If you're Mariam, you're believed to be Muslim in our context. Say Isyak Ya Basha. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. But yeah. So then FC Porto. Meanwhile, the Nottingham Forest goal that they had scored did not stand. It was chopped off. So that game is still 1-1. We are edging closer to the end of that game. Reverse fixture will be at the City Ground next. It means how are you, boss? Now, the reason as why I struggle to read this is I know the importance of pronunciation of words, especially when it comes to language or when it comes to accents and things like that. So I'll give you an example. Coming from Uganda, where we have very many tribes who speak very many different languages, the pronunciation of one word could mean something different in a different language. But also, even in similar languages, a mispronunciation of one word could mean entirely something different. I'll give you an example. You see how in English you have words that sound the same but mean differently? For example, there's cut, C-U-T, meaning cutting things, and then you have cat of C-A-T, meaning the animal, but they all sound the same. So you'll forgive me if I mispronounce some of these, if I fall short in my enunciation of some of those. You say, yes, well done, Mary, as a Muslim and Mary as a Christian. Okay. Thank you. So okay, it's full-time score Aston Villa 3, 1 Bologna, 2 a brace from Oli Watkins and Enzri Konsa have decided the tie, while Enzri Konsa's own goal while Roway's goal late on in the 90th minute is what Bologna will take back home is what Bologna will keep as a mere consolation going into the reverse fixture that will be at Villa Park next week. Freiburg have beaten up against Celta Vigo by 3-0. There Basete among the goal scorers, as well as Ginter and Giroff the goal scorers in that one. So Nottingham Forest and FC Porto, that game has finished 1-1. Gomez, as well as an own goal from Fernandez, were enough to decide the tie ahead of the reverse fixture. In the UEFA Europa League, Rayo Vallecano beat up against AEK Athens by 3-0. Looks like they have a comfortable lead in that one, while Crystal Palace have are currently leading Fiorentina by 3-0. Ismail Sarr is the goal scorer for that third goal. Tariq Mitchell and Jean-Philippe Mateta there. So, by the way, following Arsenal's victory on Tuesday against Sporting CP, the implication of that is the Premier League will have 5 slots for the UEFA Champions League. That means whoever finishes 6th will go to the UEFA Europa League. Whoever finishes 7th will qualify for the UEFA Conference League. And therefore, that simply means that teams that are in contention for that particular spot is Chelsea, because Chelsea currently occupies 6th, so they'll go to Europa League, and then Brentford, who are currently 7th, would qualify for the UEFA Conference League. Nonetheless, we'll wait until the climax of the season to determine who will be qualifying for what. Okay. Mariam, you say in Egypt we only speak Arabic. We do not have tribes or anything like that. The whole country speaks one language with a dialect that may vary slightly from place to place. Okay, now, okay, that's well explained, and I think it's an advantage when you go to a country that speaks the same language all through and through. But particularly for Uganda, what happens in Uganda? English is our official language, because just like I think the Britain were colonized by the English. Now, then the most dominant local language is Luganda, largely spoken within the central region. Now we have, I don't remember the exact number, but I think we have over 50 tribes, and majority of these tribes have different languages. So I'll give you an example. There's Luganda, there's Lugisu, spoken by Bagisu from the eastern part of the country. There's Lusoga, there's Lunyankore, there's Ruchiga, there's Runyoro, there's Langi, spoken by the Luo people. There's Acholi, there's Lukbal, there's Samia, there's Kejong, there's Ateso. I mean, you have so many languages that are spoken within the country, within the respective communities. So, welcome back, Stefan Morris. So, different languages are spoken in different communities. So, the language that brings us together as a nation officially is English. But if you learn Luganda in this country, chances are you'll be able to communicate with more than 50% of the population. They may not be able to speak it as very well, but at least they will be able to hear what you're saying. Because when you go to Busoga region, largely, when you speak Luganda, they'll understand what you're saying, and they'll be able to communicate back to you. When you go in some parts of Bugisu, it's the same story. So there's that sort of element about the language. So I hope that's different. Okay, let's move on and discuss, some of the news. The other news at Liverpool, Andy Robertson will leave the club at the end of the season. That has been decided. The Scotland international will be parting ways with the Reds. It's the end of an era. I mean, he's been such a brilliant servant to Liverpool. There came a time when Alexander Trent-Arnold and Andy Robertson were the best fullbacks you would find in the world. Present day, I think I would give that to Achraf Hakimi and Nuno Mendes in terms of a pair that is at a particular club. So that's how good he was, or he has been. Very decent servant for Liverpool. In January, Tottenham tried to sign him, but they could not find an agreement with Liverpool because Liverpool thought they needed to find a replacement before they sanctioned the move. Then Liverpool are also closer to reaching a full agreement with Ibrahim Konate over a new contract. Negotiations are advancing well after Real Madrid talks stopped in November, with Liverpool now progressing. That is according to Fabrizio Romano. He says, not done or sealed yet, but Liverpool are very confident. Now, I talked about this and I said, Liverpool in a very unique situation. First of all, Ibrahim Konate's contract was due to run out at the end of the season. That means June the 30th. On the other side, you have his partner in Virgil van Dijk, who has only, after this season, will only have a year left to his current contract. And when you look around, the next other defender they have is Joe Gomez and Giovanni Leone, who has spent majority of this season out through injury. They let go of Joel Quenshaw, which I thought was a bit of a blinder for Liverpool, letting him go to Bayer Leverkusen, even though they managed to insert a buyback clause in his, contract. I think he left for about 35 million pounds. And if Liverpool want to resign him, they may need to cough out north of 80. Sorry, they may need to cough out north of 60 million pounds. So, in other words, we're going to go into a summer where Liverpool need a restructuring of their defense. In other words, they need to start looking at who they bring in for Virgil van Dijk's successor. Giovanni Leone is within that realm, but of course, you wouldn't toss him into the deep end. So they need to rebuild that. But for me, the rebuild needed to start with keeping what they already have. Even though Ibrahim Konate has not had the best of seasons, he's not that bad a defender. So you hope that he can be a building block for them going forward. I'll call you my Ugandan friend because I can't pronounce your name. Oh, you can't pronounce my name, really? Let me maybe when I pronounce it, you mishear it. Let me just type it for you in the comment section so that it's easy for you. That's my name. Robert is the English name. Robert K. Sarkos. And the Sarkos is a nickname. So, but that's my name. You call me your Ugandan friend by name. By name. At least that's the name, for those of you that are wondering. Okay, so I think that's a step in the right direction for Liverpool, given that they are edging closer to agreeing that contract with Ibrahim Konate. Now, that gives me a lot of work. Okay, maybe we'll find time and get to discuss it. Andy Robertson is leaving. Ibrahim Konate to sign a new contract. Mo Salah is leaving. You get the feeling that Wataru Endo could leave the club in the summer. Federico Chiesa could be among those that exit the club. You say Robert Sal. Are you giving me another name? Oh, Pedri says Mariam is speaking Arabic. Yes, the beauty for me is that YouTube helps me translate Arabic. Otherwise, we wouldn't be communicating at all. And the beauty is that Mariam listens to English. She speaks English, although not so much, Arabic and French. I think those are the languages that she said. And Pedri here, by the way, Pedri knows French. Bonjour. Oh my God. Anyway, knowing so many languages is a good thing. Okay, I understand everything she's saying. Okay, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. I think Pedri did say he had this appreciation of languages, so he does learn languages. Okay, let's move forward. I understand for a fact that Arsenal have initiated contract renewal talks with Mikel Arteta. However, they do appreciate that the timing for now may not be the best to proceed to the logical conclusion of those talks, and therefore will look to proceed with the engagement over the summer. But there's a respect and a belief that it is mutual, that both parties would want to renew their existence. In a world where you have, where today we have more head coaches than managers, Mikel Arteta is one of the few bosses or people that enjoy that title of manager, where he has a grip on things across the club. I think Pep Guardiola enjoys the same status at Manchester City. Diego Simeone, I think, enjoys the same status at Atletico de Madrid. But present day, you have majority being head coach, and that title is that it gives you certain limitations on certain things in regards to the day-to-day running of the club. People who are insiders on football know that really, really well. Okay. Pedri says, I speak Arabic, German, English, Spanish, and French. Yeah, Mariam is asking you, where are you from? Why would I speak for you when you're here to speak for yourself, Pedri? Do respond to Mariam. So, Arsenal are in the process to renew Mikel Arteta's contract. His current contract runs until the end of next season, which will be the summer of 2027. So remember, he renewed his contract, I think, in 2024. So it had been a 3-year contract. Therefore, he's run 2 of those years. Now, with Arsenal in the running for the Premier League title, and they are they literally have 1 foot in the door to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League. That's if they can complete the journey when they meet with Sporting Lisbon next week. You expect you do expect that if they do win the Premier League title and possibly the UEFA Champions League, then Mikel Arteta will Mikel Arteta will have a bumper contract or will have an improved pay in his contract. I think he's the third most paid manager in Europe, because ahead of them is Diego Simeone at Atletico de Madrid, being paid about £25 million per season. Pep Guardiola receives about £20 million per season. Then Mikel Arteta is on around £10 million per season or per year. And that contract apparently has a £5 million bonus, I think, in Champions League qualification and other bonuses, I think. So let's wait. If they do. Now, I do not know, even though it has not been signaled as such, but should Arsenal miss out on winning any piece of silverware, whether that will change the circumstances of Arsenal re-evaluating their relationship with Mikel Arteta. I do not know whether that will be the case. Of course, if it does miss out on winning a major piece of silverware, a lot of Arsenal fans will be up in arms. And let's hope that's not the case. And he sort of lives to see his process bear fruit. He's the one who conjured the famous phrase or mantra of trust the process. So if we are to trust the process should be able to, bear fruit. Okay, thanks, Pedri. You do not want to answer. Pedri is from Spain. I don't know if he has dropped off, but he is from Spain. What part of Spain particularly? I'm not sure. So, but he is from Spain. That's what he says. I won't bet my hand on it, but he's from Spain. So that's the news regarding the Arsenal camp, according to BBC's Sami Mokbel. Then also at Newcastle, we could see changes in the summer. According to David Hopkins, the club CEO, there's not been an indication that they are looking forward to parting ways with Ed Howe. He joined them in November 2021, taking over from Steve Bruce now, and he since guided them to 2 UEFA Champions League qualification seasons. In his first full season, that was 2022-2023, they finished 4th and they qualified for Champions League. That was for the 2023-2024 season. Unfortunately, during the course of that season, they did not qualify for Champions League, so they missed out on needs for. Oh no, they qualified for Champions League last season. Yeah, so during the 2023 campaign, they did not qualify for Champions League football, and that's why last season you did not have them in the UEFA Champions League. But during the course of last season, they qualified for Champions League football with a 5th place finish on the Premier League table, and therefore. Now, recently, their finances are not in order when it comes to being on the right side of the profit and sustainability rules, UEFA financial fair play rules, and things like that. So they could be looking to move on at least 1 or 2 of their prized assets to balance the books, should they miss out on Europe. Because missing out on Europe is such a big thing because of what it means to the finances of these clubs. One, when a team misses out on Europe, particularly let's say the UEFA Champions League, you miss out. For a team like Newcastle, I'd want to anticipate they make anywhere between 50 to 70 million pounds. That's in participation fees, match day revenue at St. James's Park, winning bonuses and draws and things like that. So when they miss out on Champions League football, it's going to have a dent on their finances, but also Europe as an overall, because whereas the UEFA Europa League does not give you the same amount of finances like you get in participating in the UEFA Champions League, you do get something. Half a loaf is better than nothing. And compared to that, again, it will be peanuts for the UEFA Conference League, but that match day revenue can come really, really in handy. So should Newcastle miss out on European football, as does stand to be the case, because currently, as we speak, they 12th on the Premier League table with 42 points, having lost their last league outing, I think, against their rivals in Sunderland by 2-1, prior to which they had beaten up against Chelsea and I think Man United by 2-1, and then 1-0 against Chelsea. But prior to that, they had lost games against Everton by 3-2 at home. They lost to Manchester City away from home. I think it was by 2-1 in the Premier League. So this season already, they've suffered as many as 12 defeats. So it's not looking pretty for Ed Howe. Nonetheless, they will be reevaluating their options come the summer. So among some of those players that they could move on, there's Anthony Gordon, who is really, really appreciated by Arsenal and Liverpool. That's the left winger, Anthony Gordon. He scored 10 goals in the Champions League this season, although majority of those came against Karabakh. Then you have Tino Livramento, the right back, who has sort of struggled through this season with injuries. He's appreciated by Arsenal and Manchester City. Then you do have Lewis Hall, the left back, who they signed, I think, from Chelsea. He's a very, very brilliant youngster. We saw him at over 2 legs against Barcelona. He was really, really good. Then you have the midfielders in Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes. Particularly, Sandro Tonali has attracted interest from Manchester United, Manchester City, and Arsenal. So those are some of the prized assets that Newcastle could look to cash on in to balance their books and their finances in terms of also financing a squad sort of rebuild, or in a way. So Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Anthony Gordon, Tino Livramento, Lewis Hall, those are some of the players that could form. Of course, not all of them would be leaving, but those are some of the names that they could look to move on should they want to get some money. Now, the same thing will happen to Arsenal. After spending, because last summer, Newcastle spent north of £100 million in bringing in players like Anthony Elanga and Nick Voltmada, or Waltermade, like some people pronounce it. I'm not German, so you'll excuse me. Then Yohan Wissa is the other player, as well as Jacob Ramsey. So they spent quite some money to bring those players in. Therefore, to stay on the right side of the profit and sustainability rules, they'll need to make some sales. And those are some of the prized assets that they could look to part ways with. On the side of Arsenal, having spent about £250 million last summer, they too will need to make some sales to stay on the right side of the profit and sustainability rules, as well as the squad balancing ratios as per the UEFA financial fair play rules. Therefore, they could look to move on players like Maz Lewis Kelly and Ethan Nwaneri, who, according to the BBC, would be looking to raise at least £100 million, because as that will be pure profit. They are academy graduates. I do not know how they make that. When you look at Ethan Nwaneri, is a team that is going to pay you £55 million for his services? I'm not, Maz Lewis Kelly, maybe you get £35 million out of him. I don't see how they raise £100 million. But, okay, in addition, Ben White is among those that are expected to leave the club at the end of the season. Gabriel Jesus' name has featured quite frequently. Teams like Juventus, AC Milan would be interested, but also his parent club in Palmeiras over in Brazil would be interested in resigning him. Then, so yeah, those are some of the players that could leave Arsenal in the summer. I wouldn't be too surprised if Christian Norgard left the club at the end of the season, despite only arriving last summer. Gabriel Martinelli and Leandro Trossard, one of them, or if not both, could be moved on. Read my poor comment. My knowledge of football is limited because university takes up most of my time. I completely understand. I completely understand. Um, Mariam, maybe allow me to remind you, our mantra on the forum is for the fans, by the fans. So the people that come to this forum, my expectation of them is not to have in-depth football knowledge. I expect them to just have a love for football and to be aligned with any particular team, be it a country, be it a club, whether a local club, an overseas club, just that. My expectation is never that they know the ins and outs and the intricacies of everyday football. So, yeah, that's how I look at it. Okay, so those are the updates that I wanted to give you from Newcastle and Arsenal. We'll look to do, I think, in-depth videos about those situations when it comes to Arsenal and Newcastle. Hopefully, if I can find the time tomorrow to get that done. I also wanted to communicate that tomorrow night will not be able to do a broadcast because I'm going to be absent. I'll be missing in action. Not dead, but missing in action. So yeah, but tomorrow morning we'll be here, ceteris paribus, provided all factors are kept constant, provided we have power, we'll be here for the morning broadcast at 9 a.m. East African time. I'd like to see your handwriting in English, please. My handwriting, wow. I write very small letters. I don't think you'd be able to to make sense of it. I don't know. Are you seeing it? Let me hope you're not seeing it in an inverted format. But yeah, that's how it looks like. So many tiny bits of scratches in sort of my prep book. It's a prep book, amongst other things. Okay. Stefan says, well, tomorrow I'll be going back to England from Turkey. Oh, you've been in Turkey? Was it for work or holiday? Stefan, what was it? Or just, travel? Okay, I wish you a safe journey back to England. I don't know if you're going by train or by air. I wouldn't know. But we wish you the very best of a safe journey. Okay, holiday. All right, safe journey. Have a safe flight back home. You know. Okay, okay. Jesus Christ, that looks lengthy for readers. Okay. Anyways, so that's it for me tonight. Allow me wrap this conversation here, but I want to send my special shout outs to you guys, Mariam, Pedri, Stefan Morris. Let me see. Cedric. Cedric said, "Good evening, everyone." Osivio Tiano. Sorry, Cedric. I skipped your comment earlier on. Sorry about that. Then Dan Lava, Dan Dan Loveridge. Sorry, Dan Loveridge as well. It's been a pleasure. Okay. Read our poor comments. Okay. Mariam said, by bots. No. Okay. In Uganda. Oh, you're welcome to Uganda anytime. Just holler at me when you arrive at the airport. Not that I'll pick you, but I'll be willing to show you around. I'll be willing to show you around. FC 26 or FC Mobile. Wow. You guys could be talking flight language. I've never been on a plane, so that wouldn't be my cup of tea. Come to Egypt, Maurice, you're being invited to Egypt. Go and see the pyramids. Go and see the Suez Canal. Go and see the how the Nile flows in Egypt. But you can also come to the source because its source is in Uganda. Go and see the camels and eat some camel meat from Egypt. Go and see what else? The beautiful cities of Alexandria and Cairo, in football games, FC26 or FC Mobile. Oh, okay. Simi is enough. Okay. To see you, he should come and see you in Egypt. Okay. Wish you the best of luck. Anyways, guys, allow me wrap the conversation here. It's been quite a fruitful discussion. Like I said, should we have power tomorrow, we'll do a routine morning broadcast. Today we missed it because we did not have power. But guys, please go to the channel and watch that video that we did about Mukalo Mudrik and all the other videos. Please support the channel. The more you watch, the more our watch time improves, the more our content gets recommended to other, viewers of similar tastes and preferences when it comes to, being here on YouTube. So please do whatever, everything you can do within your means to help us continue to grow as the Football Tribe UG community. Otherwise, allow me wish you a blessed night and let's catch up tomorrow. Bye-bye for now. Stay blessed.